Hello everyone and welcome to Stitched Together, Art and Memory at the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia. We're here in the exhibition Family Patterns with Darcie Bernhardt and co-curator Aiden Gillis, Indigenous art programmer. I'm Sarah Fillmore, the Chief Curator and Deputy Director here at the Gallery. This talk is taking place on Mi'kma'ki, a territory that the Mi'kmaq Nation has been stewarding since time immemorial. This land has ties to a series of peace and friendship treaties that began in 1752. They emphasized the right for Mi'kmaq communities to access land-based practices and sovereignty, among other treaty rights. We ask that you take time regularly to acknowledge, in gratitude, the Indigenous territory you're currently tuning in from, and consider your part in local treaty relationships.
Within Family Patterns, Darcie Bernhardt and Letitia Fraser's paintings build on traditional portraiture. So the exhibition designed as a conversation between artists, their cultural rituals, family, and memory. Family Patterns understands motifs of home as ancestral and contemporary memory keeping. Layering cultural and domestic references specific to both artists' lives, Bernhardt and Fraser draw upon rhythms and patterns within speech, textiles, and their own community histories to express the identities and experiences through painting. Today we're pleased to welcome Darcie Bernhardt for a conversation about their work and their practice. Darcie creates locally and maintains strong ties to their home community in Tuktoyaktuk and Inuvialuka community on the Nunavut region of the Northwest Territories. So welcome, Darcie.
Welcome, Darcie.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, Darcie, so throughout your work, there are deep roots in place and relationships within your culture and your community. What does cultural storytelling mean to you?
Well, having growing up north, I think I feel very fortunate to be a part of so many conversations, but also I think for me the most important part was being around elders and being around skills, basically skill sharing, and just I think the biggest impact that I had was my mom learning how to sew and tuck, and I think for me it was like having the whole living room and kitchen was full of patterns and fabrics scattered all across the house. And I think and it was funny too because I was always the tester, and this was also made by her. And I remember when I was 10 years old, I would have pins and needles on all my sides, and she would construct these beautiful fabrics. And I think when I first went to art schools, I think these are the moments that I wanted to show. And I think with through storytelling, through fabrics and through painting or pictures have different types of medium, and I'm just whoa, thinking about these different elements.
That's so interesting that the paintings have started to reflect some of that history, and that kind of the patterns that we talk about are present in the paintings. What's the importance to you of creating your own family and community archive, and does this painting practice feed into that for you?
I think for the most part, for me it was all about look. These are my own archives, these are my personal ones, these are all taken by me or by my family. And I think with these are moments where I could look back to, and I remember this specific moment in this time, and being able to share that with somebody. And also the act of doing the painting was a lot of rediscovering the little details that I didn't remember or that I made up, because I think that's the beautiful thing about memories, that it's always rewritten or changed, and colors change, everything is constantly changing. I think that's something I want to capture in this moment I want to do with painting.
Totally. All right. So how do you represent memory in your work, and what are some motifs and themes that you explore throughout your work?
Trying to think. I think with Nunki specifically, with Nunki, and also with the abstract pieces, I think for me, patterns are again like a big part of my practice, and I think that was also something that came when I was doing these photographs and looking at old archives, is that like these patterns are passed down from each generation, or they're shared, or they're made out of like bingo patterns or floral patterns. And I think even just like the Delta braid, I think there's just like a long history of like each person has their own design and colors, and based on what they like. And I think, and also with like the parkas itself are like very specific to each community. And I think this is in tuck, and then like, and I think what I love about each parka is that like everyone's Delta braid is very specific to them or what their preferences are. And I think before that it was probably like very specific to where they're from. And for me, I'm interested into finding out more about that. And it's very cool to like talk with my mom about it as well, and really like learn as I go too, because I think we're also learning together of just like how one specific thing can happen, or just like how pattern has been passed down. And I think that's pretty cool. And yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like that's a collaboration. It sounds like it's an active collaboration.
Yeah.
That's important in your practice.
Yeah.
And it's a personal collaboration and connection. Like you name the people in your paintings as part of that specific archive work. So why is that collaboration exciting to you, and how does that work?
For me, I think especially with with this work, I'm always collaborating with my mother, my family, Nunki, and like because it's started from having tea with elders and just listening to them, and then they are giving you something in return, and having that storytelling, having that sharing element. And I think even with my animations this year, I've made I think about four short films. And my first animation was with Tom McLeod, and we did an Inuvaluk legend, and it was called Reed Story. And to me, that was like the very first like collaboration with another Inuvaluk artist, where it's just like we didn't know each other. And then I think that was a special moment where these types of like collaborations happen very organically. And I think with like working with Nunki, and yeah, I think like with working with other Indigenous artists too, is just like there's this shared experience and this shared moments where people are able to relate back to and have these like similar moments that I'm trying to make.
Oh, that's so awesome. So like, what does the future of Inuit storytelling through the arts mean to you?
I think for me, it's all about the collaborations and connections that we have. And like with Tom, it was, we were part of the first art incubation with Inuit Futures and Memory Keepers. It was the first one. And we shown our film at Nuit Blanche. And it was my first short film. Glenn Gear also helped along the way. Tom has the background in like film, and for me it was like these types of opportunities and these types of like conversations that we're having now, and with other Inuit artists, even just going back to my community or having these types of conversations is like, for me, is like very exciting to me, because there's more. My hope is that there's more opportunities like these and connections to happen.
Awesome. Cool.
Oh, we're so grateful to be part of the storytelling that you're doing, and to be a venue where other people can share their stories. It's sort of a perfect a perfect opening you've given the gallery to invite others to do the same kind of work and to engage with the stories that you've set out for us. I just want to, before we wrap up, make sure that people see that the kind of collaborative work that you're doing is really on view here with the painting of Nunki making a pair of slippers, and then the slippers themselves here on view. So there's a kind of beautiful display of craftsmanship that is enhanced by the bigger story of community that works together.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
So Darcie, would you be able to tell us a little bit about this painting Ningyuking?
Yeah, so the translation is Ningak, and then I put Ningaking as it's a way of saying when you're a kid and you are like really begging for something and you're putting your lip out and you're trying to, it's not like a cry, but it's just like it's something like pouting essentially. And I remember this when I was younger. I think I was 4 years old. We went to me and my nanak and my dadak at the time. We went to on the Delta. This is in Inuvik, and we went to go see my atik, who I'm named after. So atik means person you're named after, and she had puppies. Her dog had puppies at our camp, and of course I'm very spoilt by my grandmother. She's here on the left, and also by my atik. So anything, I was literally pouting and crying for this puppy, and then I got it, and the phrase is Ningaking. And yeah, for me it was like the most I feel like this is like a very like special moment for me, just because like it's very funny, and also it was when you're like 5 years old, 4 years old, it's just like how this little moment really just like has so much brings so much like warm memories for me. And for me it's like very visual when I think back to it. Like I could still remember the cans rattling in the boat. I could still remember what part of the river it's on. And yeah, I think like it's interesting now to see it as a painting.
To see it so big as well, eh?
Yeah.
It certainly has so much warmth. It's funny and touching and engaging in all kinds of ways.
I kind of feel like I'm sitting on the canoe with you at this angle, and where you stand when you're looking at it, it's like I'm witnessing this little kid and their big win.
The big win. That's so good. Yeah.
So with this, I would do, usually with my films, I would try to do between 2,000 to 1,400 film, our slides. So that's our frames. Mm-hmm. And I think the last one I did, or the most I've done, was the film that I worked with Carmel Farakbash on last Nocturne was called Nanak and Bibi, and it was about our two grandmothers meeting, and it was a way of like transporting and imagining that they were friends in a different time, or like, and then time jumping through, because Carmel's grandmother's from Iran, and it was a way for us to grieve our grandmothers.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So
you made a shared artwork that brought them together in an imagined space.
And then there was so they did Carmel did the soundscape and like the poetry that went with it. So it was like kind of like smelled like memory and with each frame. And it was very sweet and very special for me. just because the idea that I was making them transport to Iran, to Husky Lakes, which is in fishing, So.
Is it an activity that Carmel's grandmother would have?
Well, my grandmother would go fishing, and they would go to.
Yeah, yours would, and then
Yeah.
in this case, the other grandmother was also part of. That,
or they would cook together.
Yeah.
Or walk through, I think in Shiraz, in Iran, and that was cool. I was it also was learning me for these types of collaborations that happen, and how there's this similarity, and there's just this connection, and even imaginary. That was really cool.
Yeah, that's a very special.
Yeah.
It's not a memory. It's an invented world that gives you each a chance to access something. Yeah, and grief is such a powerful driver, because too few people have some place to put it or something to do with it, and you and Carmel found a way to do something, make something that gave you a space for that.
It's very sweet.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find a time where I can show it, just because I would rather
have a
screening or something like that. And same with tea ceremony with my friends at which is with Nocturne again this year. It's called Tea Ceremony, and it's 6 minutes, and I animated the background, and it's so it's all about a 6-minute film with Carmel Farakbash, Francesca Equiasi, and Ren Tian Morris, and all of us are friends, and we finally collaborated together and made a piece. And for my part, for the film, it's all of us having tea, and each of us have our own respective teas that we have. I have an orange pekoe tea, and that's the one that I've grown up with. And Ren has green tea, and all of us have various backgrounds. So, and the one thing that I love about tea is just sharing, gossiping, and and it's just this very shared, very sweet experience or exchange that happens
in each of your communities. It plays a role.
Yeah. So I animated that background and reacted to, and it was with the shot filmed, it was green screened. So with the background, I animated the background and put it into the film.
Well, I think we should welcome our viewers to stay tuned at the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia website for a special screening of those films in the coming months.
So here's my setup. I usually like to have, with these lights, I think they're pretty powerful. They're LED lights, and I would like when it's where I could work in a room that's pitch black, and that way the light could be consistent, and then I would use this camera and then at an angle. Luckily with this type of so with each drawing I would do, to start I would have all of my lights set up, have everything on my camera set up to the right color balance. If I were working with glass and doing a painting, I would have the glass here, but I would also direct the lights more outwards, whereas this is just paper and it's more even. And even with just this, because it's a white paper, it'll collect the light easier. But with glass, it reflects everything. So if it was hypothetically set up like this with the glass, the light would be reflecting around here. So I try to make sure I diffuse the light if I'm doing a oil painting animation. But with paper and charcoal, it's very easier to set up in terms of like lights. And if I'm extra careful, I try to do it's called a light meter, and just to see what the consistency of the light will be. And it's easier for me to edit later afterwards. And so for this, I would just do frame for frame, take a picture. This is 1, take a picture. This is 2, take a picture. And just kind of repeating the same thing. But I think my favorite part about doing a charcoal animation is making something move and erase. And then, because charcoal is so easy to erase on certain papers, that it leaves like these little remnants of eraser marks and marks itself. So when I do this, it becomes easier. That's one of my favorite things about in Greed Story. There's this scene where I make this man just walking, and it's just like 2 frames or 3 or maybe 10 frames of drawing, erasing, and then it creates this nice effect of it moving. But that's my favorite thing about charcoals, that you can take a picture and then erase, put it on, and then there's like these remnants that are still on the paper. And it's like almost like little memory lines, I like to think of it. So I'm shooting in RAW files. So when I take the picture, it's in RAW, and I take this all out of the memory card, and then I change the RAW files into TIFF files. That way they could be changed and shifted into whatever size. Because also, if you open a RAW photo, it'll ask you, this is a RAW image, are you sure, on Photoshop? So it's easier to open it as a TIFF. So once you convert all your files to TIFFs, and also an important note is to have your numbering system on your camera to be numerical, I think that's the way. And if you don't, it's not gonna recognize it, and won't recognize the sequence. So then that's another thing that you would have to, I figured out later. So as long as they're in order, and once they're converted into TIFFs, and then I make I open in Photoshop and then make it into an image sequence, and then I do 24 frames by 24 seconds, I think. And once the image sequence becomes that, it becomes a little file, like a video. And usually, sometimes it's like 2 minutes or 30 seconds, depending on how much I do. But I don't know the math of just how much is that. And then once it's able to become a video format, I could plug it into other Premiere Pro or whatever type of video software.
Well, our conversation's drawn to an end, and I'm very grateful to both of you for sharing with us. Thank you, Aiden Gillis, and thank you, Darcie Bernhardt, for sharing your personal stories and such a generous way in helping us to connect with your community and helping you connect with our gallery community. I'd like to invite you all back to the gallery in person. Please visit the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia.ca for our hours and for upcoming programs. Thanks everyone, and have a great day.